Are you having overheating issues with your Jeep Wrangler? Well, it may not be what you think. Stay tuned. Good morning, I'm Tony and this is Bats Off-Road. In today's video, I wanted to go over an experience that I had with a cooling issue on our 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK. So just to kind of go back in time a little bit, sometime back in February, my wife called me and she says, hey, I've got this check engine light on. So I said, okay, babe, come on home and we'll check it out. So I grabbed the V-Linker OBD2 port diagnostic tool, if you will, out of my truck, and I plugged it into my wife's Jeep. And I got my phone out, paired it up with the J-Scan app, which is an app that you can use to, if you have one of these, you can run diagnostics, check air codes, things like that, change tire sizes. There's other things you can do. The app itself is free, but to get the full use of it, it's like 20 bucks or so for each VIN number that you want to use. So it can, as many vehicles as you want, you pay 20 bucks and then you'll have it to diagnose whatever vehicles you have. So anyway, paired it to the adapter, checked the code, and the code was a P0128, which basically means that it's a thermostat low temperature error message that basically says that the engine is not getting up to the right temperature. Now keep in mind, this is February, so in February, of course, it's cold outside anyway, right? So had this issue, it came up, I checked the code, ran it, did a Google search, whatever, and it says, your vehicle's not getting up to optimum temperature, and this is usually an issue related to a thermostat. Now I know you're saying, well, wait a minute, this video is supposed to be about an overheating issue. Stick with me, I'll get to that part. So I ran down to O'Reilly's, we grabbed a thermostat. They're like 25 bucks. A thermostat's not bad. And on a Jeep, they're actually not hard to install. You basically take the top cover off. And by the way, this issue is related to the 3.6 Pentastar V6. So anyway, you take the top cover off, you take the tube off that runs from the air filter housing to the throttle body. And then you have access to the upper radiator hose that runs to the thermostat housing. You take all that off. You're going to lose some coolant in the process, but then you take two bolts out, swap the thermostat housing, which the thermostat comes in a new plastic housing all in one piece, again for 25 bucks. And you put everything back together and you pull the radiator cap off and top off the coolant. So like I said, this is in February, it's cold outside. It's going to have when you have really cold temps, it's going to have a hard time getting up, or it's going to take longer to get up to operating temperature anyway. And then over the course of the next couple of months, I just really felt like something still wasn't quite right. Like it just wasn't there. Although the issue now was it seemed to still be running not at the optimal temperature, but it was marginally higher than what we originally thought it was. Anyway, talked to my buddy Michael. He sort of gave me some advice, some things to check for, and at the time what we thought was I had air in the cooling system. Whenever I replaced the thermostat, he thought, well, maybe there was air trapped in the like the heater core, for example, because it's difficult to get the air out of the cooling system in a Jeep. So I did that, right? I tried to purge the system as best I could. I got it out in the driveway, jacked up the right front corner to sort of maybe make it easier for the air to escape the system, right? It just, I would get a little bit of air out, but you know, and so I thought, well, okay, maybe this is it, you know, and it kept driving. And you fast forward to, you know, from February to June, you know, like the second week of June, I think, is whenever the problem really sort of surfaced. My wife called and says, hey, it's getting hot. It's getting real hot. I've got a light on here. So she was telling me it was like 260 degrees, which is really hot. So she shut it off. She limped it home, waited for it to cool off, and limped it home. And you know, then started trying to diagnose it again. In the meantime, I ordered this system right here. So this is like a universal cooling system, flush / fill funnel, right? So it comes with you know, all of these adapters and stuff that I probably won't need, at least right away, but it also comes with what I need to connect it to the radiator of the Jeep, right? So this screws on, this together screws right on where the radiator cap goes. Then you put this on there, and you top it off. You put antifreeze in there, and I was getting it like right where the funnel starts, the taper starts right here, and I'd fill it up to that point. And then I would start the Jeep and I would let it get up to temperature, wait for it to get up to temperature, and then I could sort of see the thermostat opening or closing. But what I noticed was, you know, the thermostat in the Jeep is supposed to open at 203 degrees, and something just still wasn't quite right, you know. So we started thinking that maybe it was something else. Maybe it wasn't the thermostat. Maybe it's the water pump. So water pump's not too bad. It's like 60 bucks or something. I can't remember the exact price, and I'll put a link to the one that I used. But I ordered a new water pump and a new serpentine belt. I mean, we got 104,000 miles, you know, so it makes sense to do some maintenance, and water pump wasn't that bad. So water pump came in, serpentine belt came in, we replaced those, put it all back together, again, tried to purge the system of air, make sure we got it all topped off, drove it down the street, and it's still overheating. I'm like, oh my gosh, why is this thing overheating? What is going on? So I talked to Michael, and he was like, man, I don't know, there's a few other things, but he asked me at what temperature the thermostat's opening. And I was like, well, I don't know the exact answer to that question. It's supposed to open at 203 degrees. So I got it all set back up again. Put the put the funnel on. Made sure the coolant was filled up to about right here. And I just sat there, and I fired it up, let the engine run until I started seeing the coolant level move. And in my case, it was rising, which I thought indicated movement of air in the system, meaning air was attempting to move through the system and come towards the funnel because the coolant was moving up, the level was raising up. But that didn't happen until it got to about 216 degrees. 13 degrees higher than what it's supposed to. So that started making me think, maybe there's an issue with the thermostat. Well, I started doing some reading and researching, and I talked to the dealership here because I thought, well, maybe I need to go with a OEM thermostat. OEM thermostats are on nationwide back order, apparently. You can't get them. Don't know when you can't get them. But the dealership recommended the Gates brand. Many of you are probably familiar with Gates. They usually do the belts. You know, the serpentine belt, I replaced it with a Gates serpentine belt. But that's what the dealership recommended. They didn't happen to have any, right? And then looked at Amazon, and Amazon was like 10 days to get a Gates thermostat. And we needed the vehicle to run. My wife needed to drive it. She needed to go back and forth to work every day. And I needed my truck, you know, so I made the choice to pull the thermostat out that I had bought from O'Reilly's, which is, I think it's a Murray brand, I think is what it's called. What it's called. Took it down to O'Reilly. It had a 1-year warranty. Told them that it was not opening and close, you know, where it was supposed to, temperature-wise. They gave me a new one. I brought it home, installed it, purged the system of air, so the coolant was full, and it has run just fine ever since. Like the temperature, the temperature range, it warms up, it opens, the thermostat opens. You can see that in the funnel. You can see when it opens, it's within a couple of degrees of where it should. It gets up to a point, the fan kicks on and cools it off. So second thermostat, new water pump, new serpentine belt, all because the original thermostat went bad. The factory thermostat went bad, and we replaced it with a defective thermostat from O'Reilly's. So what I want to say is this. If you've replaced the part that you thought was bad, in this case, the thermostat from O'Reilly, and you're still having issues, don't overlook the possibility that it could be a defective part, a defective replacement part right out of the box. So, there you have it. Anyway, I hope this helped you guys. If you're still watching, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please consider liking, subscribing to the channel. I hope to provide more insight as to some of the things that I've learned along the way, and hopefully it helps you guys. Also, if I skimmed over something and you have questions, please feel free to ask questions down in the comments. I love interacting with you guys. I love the comments, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you guys have. Also, there'll be links to everything, you know, particularly like the Amazon stuff. There'll be links down in the description for the parts and the tools and stuff that I've used. So anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.